office is busy.
Hello, I'm trying to reach the Association of Clerks of Courts
Hello?
of Indiana. Hello?
Really? Okay then.
Clerk's office, this is Jill.
Hello, I'm trying to reach, I think, Michelle Hetrick.
Oh, okay. One moment here. I'm going to transfer you, okay?
All right, thank you.
Actually, okay, she's with somebody else. May I ask who's calling?
My name is Chris. I'm trying to call in regards to the Association of Clerks of Courts of Indiana. This is the only contact information I can locate.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
is
Yep, that's right. One moment and let me tell her.
all right. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. This is Michelle.
Hello. I'm calling about this information is the only thing I could find as far as contact information for the Association of Clerks of Court or Circuit Court of Indiana.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm I was referred to you by the Indiana Office of Court Services, I believe is the title.
Okay.
I'm trying to find out who is responsible for administering discipline to a clerk of court.
Okay.
Um,
Administering discipline to a municipal court, you said?
no, the clerk of courts.
Oh, the clerk of court.
Yeah, you are. I'm assuming a member of the Association of Clerks of Circuit Courts of Indiana. I presume you to be the Warren County Circuit Court clerk.
I am the circuit court clerk for Warren County, yes.
Okay.
And you're wanting to for
Um,
discipline.
well, I mean, I don't know if I would, but I was trying to find out about what the process would be. Because from what I understand, um, I'm 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 told to contact your organization because of there is no entity in the state of Indiana that would be responsible for this. The same way that like there's a disciplinary commission for a judicial officer or an attorney, the coroner, the auditor, just about any other elected position under the Indiana Constitution, as well as just about anybody else that would be required to have a public official or public servant bond payable to the state of Indiana, as well as swear an oath to the Indiana Constitution. So in my researching this, you're sort of like the last resort. Everyone is that I've spoken with has sort of passed the buck to someone else, up to and including every office at the Indiana Supreme Court that you could possibly think of that I could call. And they've a couple of them referred me to the Association of the Clerk of Circuit Courts of Indiana. So I guess my question would be: Is membership in your association mandatory for all 92 county clerks?
Yes.
It is, okay. And is there a disciplinary process that could be initiated against a clerk of court for dereliction in their duties or some sort of misconduct?
Hmm. That's a
Hmm.
very good question.
Oh man, I keep hearing that today. That's a very good question. It
Yeah,
is a very good
that's a
question
very good
because,
question.
see, the entire judicial process seems to hinge upon the fact that the clerk is an unbiased party. And without some sort of a complaint process or an administrative remedy, so to speak, one couldn't realistically think that due process exists if the actual process, the clerk's office is essentially the process for the administration of justice. The paperwork is what counts. So, it, if he or she can do whatever she wants willy-nilly, and there's no real, for whatever reason, the Constitution that she swears an oath to is a different Indiana Constitution, and she can't be held to it. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, because I've went through your bylaws a good bit, and though lengthy and quite informative, there doesn't seem to be anything that addresses this. I've read through quite a bit of training materials. It doesn't even look like we train clerks in the state of Indiana to even consider that they would experience some sort of a complaint procedure or correction of their, conduct. So, as I said, ma'am, you are my last resort. The fact that you think it's a very good question it's just not very encouraging when you think about individuals' rights to due process.
Well, I know that if I as a clerk does something against the law, obviously I can be held accountable through the court system. So
do you know what the process for that would be? Sued personally in your personal capacity?
As clerk, I could be sued
right.
As clerk.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out, ma'am. So can you go ahead? I guess, are you saying that you don't have qualified immunity? Like you're the only part of the justice system that doesn't have qualified immunity? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
No, I'm not saying that. Honestly, I need to do a little bit of research because, I know I have a bond. I know.
Yeah, that's payable to the state, which is kind of curious since, they don't really have any right to the bond if they're not going to keep track of you, in my opinion. Especially if you're swearing an oath to the Indiana Constitution, which for every other elected official in the state of Indiana, they would answer to the Indiana Supreme Court. But the Indiana Supreme Court has made it quite clear that they do not have any discretion to exercise jurisdiction over you should you commit some sort of act of misconduct, which I found very interesting because, as I said, it sort of implicates the understanding that due process doesn't actually exist if
Can I get your name and number so I can do a little bit of research and then I can phone you back?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Christopher Throgmorton. That's T as in Thomas, HROGMORTON.
Okay.
And I can be reached at 219-380-8142. And I live in LaPorte, Indiana, so I am referring to the LaPorte Clerk of Circuit Courts, Kathy Kroback, when I say she. And that's kind of what's got me a little bit interested in that. So I guess in your research, could you tell me if basically Kathy answers directly to the people? And what I mean in directly to the people is under Indiana Code 5-8-1-35. Again, that's 58135. Covering a verification of accusation, citing party, hearing, and judgment, says that when an accusation in writing, verified by the oath of any person, that's me, is presented to a circuit court, alleging that any officer within the jurisdiction of the court has been guilty of 1. Charging and collecting illegal fees for services rendered or to be rendered in his office, and 2. Refusing or neglecting to perform the official duties pertaining to his office. I'm wondering if that would be essentially the only process, and if that's where you turn up, I'd like a direct yes or no if that's the only process, because it would seem that Kathy answers directly to me, and this is a private civil matter. In which case I'm likely eligible for the Indiana Commercial Courts because Kathy's fraudulently using my identifying information, which is identity deception, and my right of publicity to generate some sort of profit while committing a fraud upon the court. And I'll gladly send this to whoever needs to see it. But I'd like a direct yes or no as to if there's any other process outside of that Indiana code that the clerks of courts in the state of Indiana would be held to. Because essentially, answering directly to the people, that's kind of exactly what we want. And if that is the only process, well, I'm going to make this popular. So I think people should know about this kind of thing. I consider myself something of a citizen journalist, and I'd like to make sure the people are real clear on this, because it's been quite a journey to track down some information on this. I've heard that's a good question about 5 times today, and I don't know about 20 times as much as I've heard that, which is very discouraging when you think about how many people are involved in the justice system and count on the clerk's office to be accountable.
Right. I had a question. Now it's gone. Oh.
Apologies.
Have you spoken to the officers of the Clerks Association?
Actually, ma'am, the links on the Association of Clerks of Circuit Courts of Indiana website, that's acccind.org. As far as contact information, it takes you to a window that is just blank. It takes you to your home screen. There is no contact information for the president of the association or the northern or southern district officers. Your information is listed under the sponsorship application with payment guidelines.
All I do is the directories. That's my only
Do you know
responsibility.
are you guys a governmental organization? Are you privately owned? Because I see under the sponsorship information here, it looks like you got one company that getting the highest amount of return for your reimbursements from child support, debt collection, stamp supplies, voting machines. Looks like there's quite a bit of private companies that have money invested into you, not being held accountable, actually. So just about everybody that funds your organization seems to have a private interest. So I just really can't understand that you would be the only organization responsible for administering the discipline to the clerk's office, unless this is some sort of big scam.
The clerk's office is a scam?
Well, no. I mean justice and due process and things. If you can't be held accountable other than in your private capacity, that's very strange. I don't understand how the jurisdictional elements of that would work, because you are operating as a governmental entity. You swear an oath to the Constitution. You have a public official bond. I just don't understand why your official actions would be something that someone would seek remedy in a private capacity for.
Okay.
That really just seems way too easy for the citizen, honestly.
Let me direct you to our president, because she may be able to answer these questions better, or refer you to someone like our legal department.
Awesome.
Because it sounds like, you're asking questions that I'm not capable of answering. Sarah, hold it. Let me make sure this is correct, because I don't want to give you the wrong person. Yeah, Sarah Arnold in Spencer County is the president of the association.
All right. And do you have a phone number for her?
I do. It is 812-649-6029.
All right. You said 812-649-6029?
Correct.
All right.
Okay. And she's our association president, and I really think she's going to be able to answer your questions better.
I hope so.
Yeah. No, I just think help you better than myself.
All right. Thank you very
Okay?
much. I appreciate your
You're welcome.
time. This matter's become quite complex,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate you taking the time to direct me to the next party.
No problem at all.
All right. You have a lovely day.
Thank you.
You as well.
Bye-bye.